Do you have any memory of your first night in with this new company?
Um, I remember uh, it was funny. Everybody wanted to let me know. It's like Johnny Rods was he was a good hand. He was a good guy. But you better get over with him in the dressing room, or you're not going to get along with anybody. It was I don't know. Just Johnny had that rep. And if he liked you, you're in. If he didn't like you, you're out. And so there was no problem with me, and of course, like I said, I wrestled him that first that first go round, and we hit it off really really well. Uh,
So the idea being that Johnny Rods was like well respected in the dressing room, and if he didn't like you, he would make sure that nobody else liked you.
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up and kind of like the dressing room or locker room politics, because part of my notes here is I was going to mention that Roddy Piper has told the story about people messing with him when he first tried to come and work for Vince Senior, and it basically ruined his entire what would have been his first run with the company. I think he was there for one night, and I believe he was in MSG. And somebody stuffed his bagpipe with toilet paper and it wouldn't play, so he went out there and just flopped and looked like an idiot. So I mean, we hear that a lot of the time when talents arrive in a new territory,
and
especially. Oh, go ahead.
and I was there. I saw that.
You were there for that.
Yes, I was there for that.
Yeah, what do you
That's I mean
remember
that's
about it?
that's the first time I ever saw. Well, I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know anything. Except that that when he went out there, his bagpipes didn't work, and we all knew why later. But I never knew. It was no and nobody ever obviously confessed to doing it. But
Do you know who did it?
no, I have no idea who did it.
Rumor has it was Freddie Blassie.
You think?
That's the prevailing rumor.
Now, why? See, but I don't understand why. It's kind of like, was it that he didn't make an impression on anybody, or
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is a lot of time when a new guy would at least this is what we've heard. Maybe you can clear it up. But a lot of time when a talent would arrive in a new territory and they're getting a nice push or getting looked at, some of the other talents would get jealous and give them some rough treatment. I mean, in your experience, did anybody give you a hard time whenever you arrived there?
no,
Nobody.
nobody gave me a hard time. When I got there. And of course I grew up in the business. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but my dad never, he never wrestled in New York. If you know what I'm saying, he never did New York territory.
Mm,
So he would, DiBiase was not a big name in, in New York
right.
at that time. So I really don't know. Um,
That's what
but I,
made that's what made me
yeah,
think maybe somebody would mess with you is
yeah.
because, Mike was a big name in the Midwest and the South, but like, nobody knows that you're Mike DiBiase's kid when you're coming up here. You're just like
Mm,
some fresh faced
hmm
baby face who's getting a
hmm
title.
yeah, yeah.
So, man, interesting that nobody messed with you. It's wild that you were there on that night with Roddy Piper. That story's kind of become legend. And yeah, like Roddy tells a story about like people giving him a really hard time when he was breaking in. Like, I think it was Larry the Axe Hennig, like intentionally broke his nose one night in the ring, and just like some people were being really, really stiff with him. Good to hear that it wasn't everybody. Maybe Roddy was just rubbing
Well,
people
and
the wrong way.
I never thought about that, but maybe because because I had the wrestling heritage that everybody knew that my father was, you know, in the inner circles of professional wrestling, considered one of the best
Right.
of his. Not only not only professionally, but he was also an AAU national heavyweight amateur champion.
Mm-hmm.
So not only was he a great worker, he was a great shooter, and uh, and so that may I don't know that maybe the respect that came along with that and the fact that I was a kid that came up in the business and been a part of the business had been a part of my life. That maybe that's part of the respect I got. I don't know.
Well, and I can, I'm obviously I wasn't even born yet, so I have no details from behind the scenes, but
Thanks, Marcus.
this is like 7 years before I was born. But no, it's I mean, rumor has it that Roddy Piper could be a little bit abrasive, loudmouthed as well. So as maybe he just rubbed a few people the wrong way. Who knows?
Could be. I don't know. Not
Well,
sure.
I did want to ask though, when you're getting there, who's your kind of like point of contact? Who's guiding you when it comes to schedule, storylines, etc.?
Well, what's funny is the reason I ended up there. One of there was a guy, um, the Saboldis, um, I think is it as Angelo Saboldi
Hmm.
had been a wrestler in New York, and now he was he was like a producer now.
Okay.
And Mario was Angelo's son, and he came to, and I don't know where the connection was, but when Dick Murdoch and Blackjack Mulligan at one time were considering uh, buying the Amarillo territory. Anyway, I don't know how, and I don't know how, Mario ended up in Amarillo, but he did for a short time. And so uh, the first time I went to New York, it was because I was being pushed on television in St. Louis.
Hmm.
And again, the St. Louis connection was really the deal. It's like Mushnick told Vince Senior uh, about me and how good I was. Well, when I showed up, I was all the talent they wanted, but I didn't have the body. I didn't have and so that was my setback. To be honest, that's what I feel like. Anyway, it's like, I didn't have the big, massive body that everybody expected, and so it was a short run.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, you look like an athlete. We've got some clips coming up here, and you're in great shape. But we've got guys like Hulk Hogan coming in. We've got the Iron Sheik, who looks like he's carved out of stone at this time. So it's just, yeah, it was just a weird transitional era. And speaking of transition, though, in March, the WWF is renamed the WWF, and allegedly that's at the request of Vince Jr., who was acting as an announcer for the company at the time.
Mhm.
What were your first impressions of Vince Jr.?
Well, I didn't. There wasn't too much to be him. You know, I just knew he was the boss's son, and that
Mhm.
he was the announcer, and